Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm really excited about our next meetup because it's going to be huge. Both in terms of number of people, we're going to have around 20 people participating. In terms of the timing, it's going to last for 2 hours, and mainly because of the inspirational and important topics that are going to be raised. So, the Embassy of Canada to Ukraine, Canadian Trade Commissioner Service, in partnership with Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce and Canada-Ukraine Trade and Investment Support Project, invites you to participate in the Canadian meetup at the IT Arena 2020. And the topic is ingredients of a high-performing IT sector as a long-term sustainable growth promoter, Canadian perspective. And our moderator today will be Katie Ward, the founder of Build Strong Cities Canada. And Katie, I'm happy to welcome you here. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here with us. How are you this morning?
Very well. The sun is just rising, and we're excited to start the day with this conversation.
What time is it there? And by the way, which Canadian city are you in?
It is 7 a.m. and I'm in a very small village called Powassan.
Nice. And I really appreciate that early Saturday morning and you're here with us. And yes, Katie, the floor is all yours, and we're excited to listen to you and your colleagues.
Thank you very much. But in fact, the floor will be given to the speakers who have decided to join us today, and I'm happy to moderate the discussion. As you mentioned, we have a robust list of speakers, all very intelligent and engaged in the ICT sector in both Canada and Ukraine. So I won't take too much time talking. I want to just be able to introduce the speakers and the concepts. As you mentioned, this is about the ingredients of a high-performing IT sector, and we've kind of identified those ingredients as venture capital and finance, cybersecurity, tech hubs and innovation, ICT ecosystems, and ICT and industry academia connections. So we're going to have some kind of micro talks around those, because managing 20 speakers is a lot. So we have them kind of grouped in subject. So that's how we'll manage the conversation kind of by those subtopics. But of course, I want to give the floor to start to our organizers and welcome our Ambassador of Canada to Ukraine, Larissa Gladza, and all the panelists. But I wanted to pass over to her opening remarks, and then we'll hear also from the trade consulate and trade officers, both Adam Barlett, commercial counselor and senior trade commissioner. Yuri, I believe you've already spoken, but you might want to give a few words as well. And then Emma Toros, who works with the Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce, and Olga Shtepta with the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement. So I'd like to pass it over to start with our ambassador to say some opening remarks.
Katie, just before we pass the floor, my team informed me that we have a short video that we wanted to show. And if you're okay, we'll run the video first, and then we'll give the floor to the ambassador.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Greetings to the participants of this year's Lviv IT Arena, and a particularly warm welcome to our Canadian guests. Welcome to Ukraine. I trust that this conference will generate ideas, collaboration to the benefit of both countries.
Canada, we didn't build the Berlin Wall, but we know how to build firewalls. Not only in Silicon Valley of the North, but from coast to coast, you will find global leaders in innovative startups in AI, VFX, quantum computing, gaming, virtual reality, and cybersecurity. We want to be home to you as well.
Over 25 years, Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce is a key Canadian non-governmental organization facilitating trade and investments between our countries. Join us and become part of the success story.
Over the last 5 years, Canada has been supporting Ukrainian IT companies to do business in Canada through the CUTIS project. These linkages had already had a positive effect, and we're looking forward to the further development in the future.
Lviv IT Arena is where businesses, academia and state talk collaboration. Canadian Trade Commissioner Service is here to help. Type Ukraine, fix a meeting, go international.
Merci d'avoir nous joindre pour le Lviv IT Arena 2020. This is an exceptional event, and it's an exceptional event because you are here. Let us know how we can help you strengthen your Canada-Ukraine partnership.
Okay, thank you for that video. I'm not sure, I know the participants in the webinar weren't able to hear most of it, but I do hope the audience could hear it. I know they're on the other side viewing. If not, I hope that video is going to be shared on a link or an Lviv IT forum site because it looked spectacular and you heard snippets of information. We did get the ambassador's message, but we have them live on this call. So I'd like to turn it over to our ambassador.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. And as I said, much more formally in the video, welcome to Ukraine. And I'm particularly excited to welcome Canadian participants to this. And for all the Ukrainians online, I'd like you to know that in Canada, this is Thanksgiving weekend. It's a long weekend, and that we have attracted an audience on the Saturday morning of one of our favorite long weekends, I think is a testament to just how much interest there is both in the Canadian IT sector and in IT and in Ukraine. So thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you for having me here today. I think my job this morning is to give you a sense of what Ukraine feels like in general, but also in terms of our engagement in the IT sphere. I'm not an IT specialist. I'm actually fairly new to this sector, and so I think I feel a lot of what's going on, and I'm very pleased to be able to share that with you today. First of all, I hope that the last couple of days have piqued your interest in Ukraine. It's a beautiful country. Everywhere you go, there is history, and there is also there's a diverse culture. Something that I didn't really expect when I came here. I think as Canadians, we think sort of Ukrainians, and when you're here, you see a real diversity. And as we know, diversity breeds a lot of strength. We all know Ukraine has amazing food, but you walk the streets and you see the incredible public art. You feel the street spirit, and after 10 months here, it is still something that impresses me. And Lviv, in particular, where we're doing this arena virtually, is an amazing city, and I hope that you are able to visit it before it becomes overrun with tourists. It's getting close to that now, but it is an amazing city that we hope more Canadians will visit. Let me describe a bit the relationship that Canada has with Ukraine. It is deep and it is broad, it is long-standing. Many of you will know that we now for 3 years have had the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement, and it has worked as expected and better, and we are now even in the process of expanding and modernizing it, including to services. Ukraine is also home to 200 Canadian Armed Forces members conducting training for the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Canada's mission here, which has just started its 11th rotation, is the largest standing foreign military presence in Ukraine. And we as Canadians should be incredibly proud of the contribution we're making to building the modern skills and the NATO interoperability of the forces in this country. We have a very varied development program in Ukraine, focused in particular on increasing gender equality from the grassroots level. And we have at the political level and the diplomatic level constant high-level conversations certainly between our two foreign ministers, but also between the Prime Minister and the President. And as ambassador, I enjoy unprecedented access here, not because that's what everyone gets, but because of the relationship that Ukraine and Canada have. So it's a real privilege for me to be here. People to people wise, you know, it is the people relationships are at the heart of this relationship, whether it's individuals, the 1.4 million Canadians who trace their lineage to Ukraine, the businesses that have longstanding relationships and budding relationships, the NGOs, members of civil society, the huge number of Canadians that work on humanitarian issues here with partners in Ukraine. And I've already spoken about the government connections. It's all about the people-to-people ties. And so I know that this is going to expose you to people, and I hope that it piques your interest such that you come meet in person and really feel that yourself. There is an instinctive connectedness between Canadians and Ukrainians. And I thought that I was sort of, I wasn't surprised that I felt it because of my own background, but I hear it constantly from Canadians that I meet in the street, and no one can really put their finger on what is that thing that makes us comfortable here. And I think that I don't know what it is. I think, you know, everyone from Canada sort of has there's a Ukrainian who lived down the street, or, you know, my mom used to buy the pierogies at the church across town, or something like that. But I think also there is the geography, the feel, the culture, the diversity that's here is very familiar to us, and makes it easy to engage and easy to enjoy. So why do we spend so much time on the IT sector? No, it's not just time. We have a fabulous trade commissioner in Adam, and a wonderful team that he has, Yuri and others, who are always innovating and developing those ties. We have the CUTIS project. I'm really glad to see that Emma is here. This is our development money that we're putting into the development of trade between our two countries. So across the board, we're spending time on this relationship, and especially in the IT sector. My own impression of why there's something here for Canada on the IT side is that it stems, Ukraine's power in this area stems from a really strong, prolific combination of a bunch of factors. First, there is a strong tradition here of engineering and technical education to this day. The infrastructure there, the expertise is there, the history is there, and you talk to young kids and it's what they are going into. Second, it's a very creative culture across the board. Third, there's a European mindedness, a look to the future, a look to innovation that pervades the country. And fourth, I would venture to say that this is a sector that is not weighed down by the baggage that affects a lot of other sectors that we deal with. There is no oligarchic control. There are no heavy post-Soviet institutions that need to be reformed. There's no infrastructure that's holding people back, and the regulatory environment is a fairly free one. So this is a space into which people who have motivations and creativity and ingenuity and entrepreneurial spirit go into, because it is relatively, I think, and absolutely unhindered. And I think that by definition, IT is about the future. It is about being with Europe, and the people who work in IT in Ukraine, I think, are a very important part of the transformation that this society continues to go through in its Euro-Atlantic integration trajectory. So we're very excited to be active in this field. I'm really excited to spend the next 2 hours with all of you people and hear from our Ukrainian from Ukrainian partners. And then ultimately, I hope to also hear from the Canadians who are online to see how this worked for you, to see how we can build on what you learn in the Lviv IT Arena, and how we, through the Trade Commissioner Service and through my office, can support your deeper engagement in the sector. So thanks for joining us. I'm really delighted. I might make my way to the couch to just hangout on this Thanksgiving Saturday. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ambassador, for those very comprehensive remarks telling the story of the relationship between Canada and Ukraine, how historic and special and unique it really is. I had the opportunity to work on Canada-funded programs for the past 7 years in Ukraine. So all of the things you're saying resonates with me, resonates with, I think, a lot of the Canadian speakers who I've had a chance to talk to in preparation for this. In their knowledge, if they don't have direct connection already with Ukraine, they're curious because they've heard about this special relationship you're talking about and this deep-rooted historic success we've had. So thank you for highlighting it in so many areas, from defense, culture, culinary, to obviously today's conversation is ICT. So thank you for setting the context for us. You mentioned trade and trade being so important between Canada and Ukraine. So I want to invite Adam Barbalet, Commercial Counselor and Senior Trade Commissioner with the Embassy, to say a few words and highlight what he wanted to say. I know I had a chance to work with Adam directly, and he's been such an incredible spokesperson and actor for Ukraine and Canadian trade. So Adam, please share your thoughts with.
Thanks very much, Katie, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. The fact that I have to say good morning and good afternoon simultaneously suggests that Canada and Ukraine are not neighbors, but we are family, as the ambassador said. And I think IT Arena and this forum really gets to that point. It's about these bonds, about these connections that we share, and about strengthening those. And those bonds, I think, they're not just conceptual, they're not just theoretical. We see them in action. In a time of unprecedented global turmoil, where we have pandemics and all kinds of global financial insecurity, Canadian exports to Ukraine are up 8.2% year over year. I mean, frankly, I would have been thrilled if they were just stable, but the fact that they're actually up in this environment is amazing, and I think really speaks to the trust and to the depth of the relationship between our two countries. It's also, as Ambassador Galaza said, in part because of the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement. And this is a free trade agreement that's now been in place for 3 years. We're heading into our fourth year, and already we're looking at renewing and expanding this agreement. And every time we talk about it, it strikes me as a bit funny that we're talking about modernizing a 3-year-old trade agreement, but that's the level of commitment that we have to ensuring the strength of our relationship, and that we continue building those bonds. And one of the aspects that's up for negotiation and is the services sector, and presumably including IT and ICT. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that discussion goes, and including services and ICT in future trade agreements. But I want to take a minute and step back and look at the breadth. We both Katie and Ambassador Galaza referenced the Trade Commissioner Service, the team that we have, the phenomenal, amazing group, Yuri, Magdak, and others on the team who every day do incredible work in service of connecting Canadian and Ukrainians in the commercial space. And it's not just in the ICT sector, but I want you to think about, as I go through the various different sectors that we work in, think about them from a technology perspective. So for example, health and life sciences, agriculture and agricultural machinery, finance and insurance, aerospace, defense. Each one of these has an enormous potential, enormous component of technology. And as Ukraine increasingly integrates with the West and the Euro-Atlantic path that it's on, increasingly as it becomes a more global country, this technology becomes more and more a part of each one of these components. And we see it in our day-to-day work. And I hope that you will take those up. And that's what I want to finish on, is this idea of opportunities. In our work in the Trade Commissioner's Service, we see phenomenal opportunities on a daily basis. And our challenge, frankly, isn't finding opportunities for Canadian companies. The challenge that I want to put to Canadian companies is to take up those opportunities and to know that the embassy and the Trade Commissioner's Service and all of us are here to help support and help make that as smooth and successful a relationship as we can. So thanks very much, and I hope today's meetup is a real success for you. Let us know how we can help.
Adam, thank you very much for especially reminding us to think about ICT as a thread that can go through all of the other sectors where there's opportunity for trade and engagement across Canada and Ukraine. And I have to say a personal thank you to you. You've been such a wonderful help, even as I've transitioned back into Canada working on trade-related questions. So to the Canadians listening and the Ukrainians listening, sincerely, this trade office is dedicated to supporting Canada-Ukraine trade and has wonderful relationships across the country. So thank you, Adam, for that reminder and for putting our minds in a space to think ICT regardless of what we're actually working in. To go a little bit deeper into ICT and the bilateral sectoral trends between Canada and Ukraine, I'd like to ask Yuri Mardak, Trade Commissioner specifically with ICT with the Embassy of Canada to Ukraine. Yuri, can you share some comments?
Sure. Thank you very much, Katie. Your Excellency, chers collègues, les amis, bonjour, and welcome. And thank you very much for being here with us today. It's we really appreciate that. This year's Lviv IT Arena is special in many senses, and I would just like to use this opportunity to give credit to a great job that the Lviv IT cluster has done in putting this together. It's already the 6th conference, and it's being organized under unprecedentedly exceptional circumstances. You've done a great job, and this also is a special conference because we are having over 60 Canadian participants at the arena with us, and this compares to several Canadian companies we had in an offline format last year. It is. I'm not sure if I'm online because I don't see the picture right now. And these 60 Canadian participants represent business, academia, state, science, technology, and innovation establishments and business accelerators. This presents, of course, a great array of opportunities to our Canadian companies who look for opportunities to connect with Canadian companies. This also attests to the tremendous potential and opportunities for bilateral ICT connections in the ICT sector between both Canadian and Ukrainian companies. In promoting Ukraine's opportunities back to Canadian companies, the embassy and our partners, we literally went from coast to coast, from British Columbia to Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, Quebec, Ontario, you name it. Each province is here with us today, and I sincerely appreciate you us today. Thank you very much. Ukrainian companies have shown a growing interest in establishing legal presence in Canada, and there's this distinct trend that we are seeing, and there are a number of reasons for that. One is to expand their market reach. Another one is to simply put a label made in Canada on their product. Also to make excellent business environment in Canada, and the support that is being provided by business accelerators and business incubators. Some of them we are having here with us today. Later on you'll hear a talk from McMaster's Innovation Park and the others include DMC and Mars Discovery District. So next time you join us at the arena or at other events, we'll make sure that you have access to all those excellent organizations. Also, Canadian market is viewed by Ukrainian companies as a potential first step to localize in North America. Obviously, when they are eyeing expansion to the United States, Canada presents a number of opportunities to make this step. In turn, Canadian companies are increasingly looking at creating, establishing development centers in Ukraine, and there's a number of who have already done that in various using various legal means, either by buying a Ukrainian existing business or simply buying IT services, because Ukrainian IT sector is known for its not only exceptional quality of service that they provide, but also for its creativity and innovation. So there's a definite and natural match between what both countries' IT sectors can offer to each other, and we are thrilled at being able to organize platforms where those linkages can be explored and made. And Lviv IT Arena is in fact is just this very special place where we're happy to be contributing to building those bridges, those linkages. And I'm very thrilled at seeing this tremendous uptake on part of the Canadian industry, who is very conservative in the first place, but having 60 of them, and some of them have a few representatives, to me speaks really highly of what opportunities we have been able to present, and the linkages that we have been able to spark. I think that this will lead to meaningful and impactful projects in a number of areas, business to business, academia to business, and state to business, and all sorts of things. So thank you very much for being with us. And finally, I would like to say a special thank you to the embassy's partners in putting this exciting Canadian program at Lviv IT Arena together. And these are Canada Ukraine Chamber of Commerce, who have offices in Ukraine and in Canada. And I'll let Emma speak about this in a moment. But thank you very much for being a partner to the embassy in working on this. It's a valuable and a very important contribution. Thank you. And also to the excellent project, which is called Canada-Ukraine Trade and Investment Support Project. Thank you very much to Olga Stepa, who's here with us today. Olga is an activity coordinator. It's a unique project in the sense that the Canadian government, as a true friend for Ukraine, offered this valuable hand 5 years ago by helping Ukraine diversify its trade and investment market reach to Canada, effectively opening its market and paying for that, paying for opening its own market. Look, no other country has ever done it to Ukraine. So I'm really proud at seeing this, and I'm proud of the results that the CUTIS project has managed to produce. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm thrilled at having you with us, and I encourage my Canadian companies and the Ukrainian companies to contact Trade Commissioner Service and let us know how we can help strengthen these ties that you have hopefully made during this conference. Thank you.
You're very helpful and insightful comments to deeper contextualize us into the ICT sector and ICT relationship between Canada and Ukraine. Thank you for sharing those trends and what you're seeing for the growth opportunities. Certainly for the Canadian companies on the call, that's useful to hear. And just before we move into our panels talking about the ingredients and getting deeper into the conversation with industry, as you mentioned, this type of work does not happen in isolation, and Ukraine is blessed to have several Canadian partners and relationships. So I'd like to invite, as you already mentioned, Emo Toros from the Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce to talk about how that organization supports two-way trade and investment as well.
Thank you, Cady. Your Excellency, dear guests, dear colleagues, you have mentioned about the long-term history of our relations between Canada and Ukraine and about the teamwork. And I'm really proud to be part of this team wherever I work, in what capacity, independently, just within last just maybe 25 and even more years. Because since 1992, Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce is the key Canadian non-governmental organization facilitating trade and investments between Canada and Ukraine. It was founded shortly after proclamation of the Ukraine's independence by a group of Canadian businessmen who were interested in support of Ukraine and doing business here. And of course, soon they started a number of projects in Ukraine. I wouldn't like to stop on our activity within the last 3 decades, because it's really long time and long history. But I would like to mention that we do what other chambers of commerce do, of course, advocacy, of course, events, trips to Ukraine, to Canada, and also we have huge institutional memory, so we know all the history since 1992, what happened in Ukraine, what happened with business, and sometimes even governmental bodies approach to us just to restore this long history, because we have all tracks in our files. To date, we have over 230 members in both countries, and we have headquarters in Toronto and office in Ukraine. I run the Ukrainian office since 2009. And since that time, I would like to mention that over 1,500 people, Ukrainian businessmen, could visit Canada with our support and help. So these are forums, so these are various events. So I spoke at many events in Ukraine, maybe 35 forums a year, just across our country. And I speak, I tell about Canada. I promote possibilities and opportunities. We have fantastic team in Canada, and of course, sometimes, you know, we were the only organization which had office in Ukraine, and we were just platform for communication, especially during Yanukovych time. What about our future? Unfortunately, all projects have beginning and have the just finished, have started and finished. And CUTIS project is not an exception. And this year is the last year of the CUTIS project work. So our organization is implementing this project together with the Conference Board of Canada, just a really excellent organization, very strong in analysis, in preparation of legal materials and other things like that, and researches. But we are in charge for the practical work, and we will continue what the CUTIS project started. Olga Stepa will tell you a little bit about this project, but we are looking for more sophisticated ways of cooperation between Canada and Ukraine. And we are offering you not our expertise only, but common sense and our creativity, our experience. And we are just inviting the ICT companies and other companies who are interested in this cooperation to join us and become part of this long story. Thank you so much, Cady. Thank you for giving me a floor, and I'm really grateful to our team, President Zenon Potochny, our board, both in Canada and Ukraine, for their support. And you know, all these people work volunteer. All the volunteers, just can you imagine that just instead of doing something for their families or just going for vacation, they visit Ukraine and help us to develop our business. Thank you again, and my colleagues in Canada, Ukraine Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Katie.
Emma, thank you for those great remarks, and especially highlighting the relationship of the Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce going back to pretty much independence of Ukraine. And, you know, we like to boast, those of us who have worked with Ukraine as Canadians, Canada was the first Western country to recognize Ukraine's independence and certainly act very quickly, as you mentioned, the business community coming together to support those trade and business relationships. So thank you for sharing a little bit of the history and the future of where that's going, and offering your organization also as a place where businesses can connect with on the Canadian side here. I believe your office is in Toronto and maybe Ottawa, but in any case, online they can find you and also connect. Thank you also for mentioning that Olga Sheptik can share some information about the Canada-Ukraine project the past 4 years. So Olga, please hop on and share some insight on that project.
Thank you, Katie. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our virtual Canadian Meetup 2020. Thank you all for joining this event. I wish you all will have fruitful and enjoyable discussions today. And taking this opportunity, I would like to thank the Government of Canada for its generous help and support of Ukrainian small and medium companies through the CUTIS Canada-Ukraine Trade and Investment Support Project. I also want to warmly welcome our colleagues, partners, and supporters from both countries. And your presence here today reflects our shared priority to advance the global project agenda for both sides of the ocean. And lastly, I would like to express my appreciation to the stakeholders from the business, the public sector, and the technical community who have been active participants in our work for all 5 years of the project. Thank you. Over the 5+ years, Canada has been supporting Ukrainian IT companies to do business in Canada through the CUTIS. Every single day, we were working on establishing business linkages, conducting trainings, missions, forums, launch events, conferences, trade shows, presentations, workshops, panels discussion, and of course, B2B meetings. We also prepared a series of how to export to Canada guides and manuals like an expert, including expert in ICT services to Canada. That is a project's heritage and the concentration of 5-year project activity. COVID-19 forced the economies and governments to rapidly switch to innovation-driven virtual platforms with radical business and services digitalization. And it speeds up the process of finding partners for the implementing of challenging IT projects. Ukraine is ready to offer extensive expertise and the sheer numbers of skilled professionals. One CUTIS ICT company recently said, CUTIS moved the mountains and created thousands of win-win relationships. And that's really true. Thank you and welcome.
Olga, thank you for sharing that CUTIS actually has had a significant impact for both Canadian and Ukrainian companies. So also, as you mentioned at the beginning, thank you to the Canadian government and the Canadian Embassy for supporting that project and the way that it has blossomed over the past 4 years as it implemented the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement. I believe we have one more person to hear from. That's Hendrik Tolland. Now, this is interesting. He's a senior investment officer, the Embassy of Canada to Germany. But I think it's important also to talk about these, you know, we're talking Canada, Ukraine, but Canada is global. Ukraine is global. We've talked a lot about the Euro-Atlantic and European integration. So Hendrik's going to talk a little bit about why Canada is a top investment destination in the ICT sector and sort of bringing that Eastern European perspective to it. So Hendrik, I think you're on the call. Please hop in to share your thoughts.
Yes, certainly. I'm on the call. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for having me here. And I guess we already heard it from Ambassador Galatza that in the end it's a team approach. So even if I'm based in Berlin, which is one of our largest Canadian missions we have in Europe, we're nonetheless working as a team. So I've been fortunate to assist a few of our sister missions in Central and Eastern Europe in the investment efforts. And whenever we counsel clients, it's kind of striking to them that as an embassy, we can go all the mile, which means that clients are, happy to invite us to be part of the project teams to help them along a process of sometimes months or year to land the project, the greenfield, brownfield, joint venture, M&A project in Canada. And there's a very good reason for that, and I'm certainly want to take too much time because we have a lot of sector experts who can explain much better why Canada, and especially the ICT sector from coast to coast, is a more than viable as a destination target. It's a sector which has about 210 billion of revenues. There's about 70,000 people employed directly. All over Canada, it's over or close to 1.5 million working in ICT-related jobs. And we already heard that Canada is having a free trade agreement with Ukraine, but in fact, Canada is the country in the world which has the highest number of free trade agreements with any country, which means in this case, if you are as a company, as a European, as a Ukrainian company, you're coming to Canada, you do not only have access to the Canadian market, but actually also directly to the North American market, where we're talking about 450 million potential clients in the United States and Mexico as well. Question is, why should you come to Canada? I've personally had the fortune to live already in early young age in Canada, so I can absolutely testify it's a great quality of life. And in fact, we do have a lot of people who might have spent a lot of holidays already in Canada and just want to build on that. And there's nothing wrong about that, because if you come as an investor, you have to feel good, and also the people you're employing. So that's why Canada has been relying always on immigration. And in fact, it's those people coming newly to Canada every year that help us to add jobs. So in the ICT sector, we've added just in the last 5 years, close to 120,000 jobs in the ICT sector, and we're relying on that. And those people are smart people coming from abroad. It's actually 50% of all the STEMs, all the science degrees we're having, graduates we're having in Canada. So we keep on relying on that. We can certainly discuss in more detail bilaterally later why it would make sense also from a business point of view, because just to give you a few ballpark figures is that Canada certainly has one of the largest, lowest and most attractive tax systems in the world. So the corporate income tax is one of the lowest in the G7 countries if you were to come to Canada. And also, if you come as an ICT company, it automatically means you have qualified, highly qualified people. So we can make sure to help you land within actually 2 weeks, because we have a thing such as a global skills strategy, which is specifically designed to help attracting those kind of companies to get their staff, to get the workers over more quickly. I want to end at that point, just to leave you with maybe with 5 points why it would make sense to consider Canada as an investment destination. And that's, as I said already, we have a wealth of highly qualified and diversified talent. We have a few world-class tech eco-hubs across the nation, let it be Montreal, let it be Halifax, Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, and others, with world-class companies already having landed there, such as Amazon or SAP or Ubisoft, you name it. We have this access to global talent. And we have federal support programs, let it be tax credits, let it be strategic investment funds, let it all be all the provincial programs we're having out there. And not last but not least, it's the quality of life, which makes Canada a great place to live. And I want to hand it over now rather to the sector experts to dive down deeper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hendrik, for that great discussion, and also sort of helping to remind us that this is a team effort, that Canada works globally across Eastern Europe, across Europe, to strengthen the ICT sector very broadly. And you're absolutely right. We have a lot of sector experts on the call. So we're going to switch now to engage some of those. As I mentioned at the beginning of the call, because we have 20 experts, 20 plus experts I've kind of broken down these conversations into smaller pieces. So I'm going to start on just the ICT, the Canadian ICT ecosystem. We have two experts here, Wayne Gudbranson and Namir Ani. So Wayne and Namir, I hope you're ready to speak. Just some context setting here. Namir is president and CEO of the Information and Communications Technology Council, which is a not-for-profit national center for expertise in the digital economy. So he's going to share some insight on the sort of evolving disruptive trends in the Canadian market and the growth industry verticals. And then we will go through to Wayne, and Wayne will share information on noteworthy projects, challenges, and breakthroughs in the Canadian tech scene. So because time is of the essence, I'm not going to read bios. This is the 21st century. You can Google these people. I'm sure the IT Lviv Arena website has all the information. I just want to jump into the conversation. So Namir, please hop on the call and share some introductory remarks, and then we will have a few questions for you.
Thank you, Katie. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon in Ukraine. It's certainly my pleasure to be here today, and thank you to Ambassador Gladza and everyone for setting the context of this discussion. I think if anything, this COVID-19 pandemic and the economic jolts that we've had, highlighted a couple of important aspects. One is that I think we're all coming to the conclusion that economic recovery is going to be digital-led going forward, and ICTs play a critical component of that. But also because of the trade aspect, that we are really in an environment of globalization and we have to depend on each other, ultimately with the reverberating effects that we all felt with the supply chains. We have to choose our strategic partners quite well. And obviously between Canada and Ukraine, there's a whole different and prospects that we can look into. So let me give you a feel of the ICT or the digital economy in Canada and what's shaping in this environment, and maybe extend on some of the things I've presented recently. So at a high level, the digital economy in Canada employs around 2.2 million people. So it's ICT, but also people in the digital space working in other companies, and it could be the manufacturing sector, could be the retail, and many others. Just before, obviously, the pandemic, unemployment in this space or the jobless rate was sitting at 2.7%. And as we all know, anything below 4% is full employment. And in fact, job growth in Canada in that space outweighed every other sector of the Canadian economy by 4-1. So a lot of jobs have been created. And our outlook as an organization, we did a report that's called Outlook 2023, where we estimated there will be around 305,000 jobs created in this space in many industry verticals going forward. Obviously, the pandemic hit, and we started to look a little bit more conservatively into this environment. But all I can say is that we're certainly in a very much resilient economy in Canada, collectively, but also the digital space is much more resilient in that environment. And as much as we've seen the human and economic toll of the pandemic on many industry verticals, whether it's the oil and gas, manufacturing, retail, hospitality, and travel, many of the companies that were either digital born, digital by default, or have transformed quite rapidly, like the in the e-commerce or the digital banking, the fintech, the e-learning, 3D printing, and others, not only started to survive in that space, but thrive in that environment. And as I mentioned in my previous presentation, that the whole working from home environment has also changed the perspective of how we see things and how we transact with our economy in Canada, and I'm sure globally, I'm sure in Ukraine as well, is that we started to adopt more of the online platforms to do of the e-commerce, to do the banking, and many other factors. So obviously, many of these companies that provide these services looked into how to transition fast in that environment, adopting cloud business, leveraging all the communications mechanisms and digital banking to do that. So there certainly, and that by itself is creating a whole new aspect of trade, because let's not forget, as much as physical trade is taking shape and expanding, despite some protectionist trend in the last number of years, is that digital trade is one of the biggest winners in that space, because everything we do has to transition through cloud business. Whether you buy a car, it's connected to, if I look at the high-end cars from Germany, a lot of them are connected with their maintenance suppliers in Germany in trying to figure out what's happening to these, whether it's an airline industry, but also over-the-top connectivity. For instance, any of the Netflix or Crave or Hulu or others all transit across boundaries and across countries, as much as e-commerce, as much as digital banking and others. So there's certainly tremendous opportunities to start to look at the software development environment in terms of exchange. How do we leverage this space going forward? But let me say, and maybe close on that, is that as much as we're looking at the talent development and attracting investment into this space, I think there is a lot of opportunities here to look at how do we develop the skills of the future. We are very cognizant as an economy, as an organization that basically with a mandate of advancing Canada's digital advantage in a global context, that the continuous reskilling and upskilling is going to be a critical component of our success factor in the next number of years, and specifically in an increasingly digital-led economic recovery. And to attract investment in Canada, and I'm sure it's very, a parallel approach in the Ukraine, there are many facets to this, because talent is one of the most important comparative advantage in this space. But in addition to this, you have to look at the taxation policies, you have to look at the academic institutions and the ability to do applied research to help companies grow and create that IP and turn it into commercialization in the next number of years, but also access to financing and capital and all of these aspects. And it's clear to say that both countries have a lot of these components, but also the natural beauty. Ukraine has one of the 7 most World Heritage sites, and obviously has wonderful talent and a large capabilities into advancing it specifically. And the more I read, the more I find out that the IT sector is actually growing quite significantly in Ukraine, and as much as we are growing as well. So I think we need to look at potential synergies of how can we work cross-border in a digital trade that is very much, as Ambassador Glatza mentioned eloquently, that it's unhindered, it's creative, and it's innovative. So I certainly look forward to the exchange, specifically that we deal across the country with several thousand of industry members. And we would be delighted to expand on the discussion and the exchange going forward. Maybe just to close on the sectors that are growing, certainly apart from the technology ecosystem of 5G, blockchain, 3D printing, virtual and augmented reality, the sectors that we see that really are taking shape in that space because of the environment as well and the COVID-19 is advanced manufacturing, because we all have to think of adopting robotics and automation, so less reliance on the human factor and more dependency on having smart supply chains and smart manufacturing to continue the operations. But also retail is expanding in terms of its e-commerce capability, the fintech sector, financial technology sector, and the digital banking, as much as telehealth, in terms of remote surgery, remote diagnostics, and others. I'll stop here and look forward to any of the questions to expand on my discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that you used, as you started, the word resiliency, because I think that's a very important topic right now when we talk about the transformation of the economy. which you hit on, and I'm going to get Wayne to pick up on that theme before we come back for just some general questions, because he also works on sort of the challenges and breakthroughs in the Canadian tech scene. But I also, for the listeners, and to reiterate what Adam said at the beginning of the call, is that ICT, and you've reiterated this point, is growing across other traditional sectors, that we tend to focus on things like blockchain, augmented reality, 5G. These are obvious growth sectors, but there's opportunity, as you mentioned, in other sectors across advanced manufacturing, retail, and more traditional sectors. So thank you for reiterating that point. And certainly in Canada, it's around the world. I mean, it's transforming because people are starting to think of the application and use of technology. Wayne, I'm going to invite you to take the floor for a few minutes to talk about some of those challenges and projects you've seen in the Canadian tech scene, and why diversifying, even as Namir talked about this, into international markets is a good thing.
Thanks a lot, Kitty. And this is the first time we've met, by the way. And when you mentioned Powassan, that's very close to my hometown of North Bay. And so, in fact, I think the last time I was in Powassan, it was many, many years ago, and I was playing golf there, right? Fabulous little community, by the way. I'm delighted to be here, Madam Ambassador. It's a pleasure to meet you virtually and digitally. At some point in time, I'll be back in Ukraine, and maybe we'll have a cup of coffee and have a chat. I see so many friends on this video chat, and I want to say hello back to you. I have so many friends in Ukraine now. About 3-4 years ago, my firm was spending a lot of time in Ukraine associated with the CUTIS project. We brought well over 35 companies to attend our Branham 300 launch. And what's happened from there is that our ecosystem within Branham Group has grown greatly. And so we have a tight integration with a lot of firms, and we understand actually in a very detailed way what's going on in Ukraine. We've met the soft serves, the EPAMs, and we've also met the less than 5-person companies in Ukraine that have absolutely brilliant technology, right? So again, I just wanted to say it's a pleasure being here, and I want to. The challenge with actually engaging Branham is that we have too much data to share with you in 4 minutes, right? So let me go through a couple points, and it probably relates to ICT ecosystem, and it probably relates to a whole bunch of other stuff, right? So I'll try to get through it. But first of all, I do applaud the folks that organize the IT Arena here digitally and so on. It's so necessary because there's, although Eastern Europe in a sense has been certainly exposed more to Canadians, a lot more work needs to be done, because there's unbelievable gems in Ukraine. It's like the gold industry. There are nuggets of gold there, are just unbelievable, right? I just want to put the Canada in context a little bit. Pre-COVID, I mean, it's very important you understand pre-COVID here. The domestic industry, ICT industry in Canada, based on the Branham 300 and based on the top 250 companies that are Canadian, is $125 million, marketplace, and it's growing. It was growing typically at a 10 plus compound annual growth rate, and so on, right? So very deep, very broad. Every day we're coming across a net new company that is just brilliant, and there's every week that we're being contacted by Ukrainian companies to look for opportunities, and we try as hard as we can to partner those companies with other companies in the Branham 300 ecosystem, but we deal with well over 22,000 technology companies in Canada. So we're very strong. Canada is very strong in all the areas you've enunciated and more, right? But I'm going to focus on a couple things. One is relating to the venture capital side. Venture capital, private equity in this country has increased dramatically, like unbelievable. And a number of private equity funds that have money are looking more and more now to investing in Canadian companies, right? And collaborations with companies in Ukraine is of interest. By the way, there was a comment regarding Canada has the most bilateral, multilateral trade agreements. You're absolutely right, by the way. When I look at my business, we're doing work in Ukraine, we're doing work in Ireland, we're doing work in Colombia. All three are part of bilateral, multilateral agreements. And And I think those, expedite business, to be honest. But back to the financial side, I'm going to tell you a little story. In 2007, we identified a company called Verithin out of St. John's, Newfoundland. At the time, Verithin had probably less than $1 million in overall revenue. And we put them in the classification of top 25 up and comers. And we said, you have something there. You are going to be very successful. In the last year, and this is 2007, took them a while to get noticed, but just last year they received $518 million of venture capital, right? And this is in our easternmost most east province of Newfoundland and Labrador. So if you think that our ICT sector is concentrated at the major metropolitan sectors, you're not wrong, but you need to know that the quality and depth of our sector is really expansive across not only first tier, second tier, third tier companies, right? And yes, we have the Shopifys of the world. And by the way, Shopify has been extremely successful because their portfolio product is ideally suited for remote working, remote business, and e-commerce, right? So they were tremendously in a sweet spot. Also, Microsoft, from a foreign multinational point of view, is doing extremely well because everybody's buying 365 and everybody's using Teams, except for this one here. There are a lot of Teams and 365 going on in Canada, for sure, right? Business is up with all Branham 250 companies in Europe. And by the way, I'm not going to suggest anything, but we started to notice this when the presidency changed in the United States. Seriously, like there was more business that Canadian companies were doing in Europe and with European companies when there was a shift in government. I'm not saying there's any correlation. It was kind of an interesting fact when my staff told me that. Ukraine. I've been there 3, 4, 5 times, and I love Lviv. I love Kyiv. I can't get enough of it. The companies I met there, I remember going from 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. The enthusiasm, the energy, the work that those companies were doing is marvelous. The output, and I keep saying this, and sometimes we're too positive about our own environments and don't recognize some of our deficiencies. But I would suggest that the average IT programmer in Ukraine is more produces a higher level of output than the average IT programmer in Canada, right? And so we've got a lot to learn from Ukraine and the work ethic and everything going forward. And a lot of that has to do with the change of Ukraine in 2014 with the revolution of the Maidan. And I got very much involved in the history of Ukraine. I just love that country. So one of the things I wanted to focus on, there's so many opportunities. And Namir was talking about, a litany of, 10 areas. They're all working really well. In terms of our business, we've taken a cybersecurity company out of Europe and installed them. And you're going to see an announcement in 2021, announcement by a major Canadian bank. We're spending a lot of time doing, mapping technology companies with core requirements in the Canadian industrial makeup, right? Spending a lot of time on that. So the technology is global, it's unbelievable, and there are willing Canadian companies to work with it. And we also have technology that we want to proliferate through Eastern Europe and broadly in Europe. And the relationship with Ukraine makes a lot of sense to me. But let me focus on one thing. And I try to understand, what that one thing is. And I'm going to say cloud first. What COVID has done is accelerated the need for our organizations across multiple industry verticals to deploy a cloud first strategy. It's absolutely critical. Now, I know we have folks from all sectors on here. Let me be emphatically clear. The federal government of our country, 1% of 18,000 apps are cloud. Now, I don't want to be Mr. Negativity here, but that's deplorable, okay? We have not harnessed cloud technology for our benefit, right? 1 out of every 4 employees in the federal government is an IT support worker. So if the government had a $100 billion budget, we're allocating $20 billion annually for support within IT. When you look at that ratio versus companies like Salesforce.com, it's 1 to 50. We are not achieving economies of scale by not using cloud technology, right? Now, further to that, and I'm using government because we really do have to make it more efficient. We really do. And there's a huge market there, okay? So I'm going to announce something now. It's not out there, but Branham is heavily involved in establishing an ecosystem marketplace of principally small and medium-sized application, SaaS application for deployment and purchasing by the government sector. Because we have to change this. It's a whole change management strategy, and industry has to take a role here. It's really, really important, guys, that we move to cloud. So that's where, you know, I was put in the class of ICT ecosystems. We're pulling together SMEs to go after this huge opportunity called Cloud First. It's really important. We cannot do it all ourselves.
I'm going to jump in. You got to wrap up because you have so much amazing things to say, but we've got to get to a lot of speakers.
Okay, great. So Cloud First.
There you go. Look at that key
Thanks.
message. I am going to ask you guys, thank you. I am going to ask before we move on to the next subtopic, because you both mentioned this, and I think you both have so many insights that we could probably have like 90 minutes with just the two of you. And that's going to be the same for all the speakers, by the way. But the idea of this panel is to get everyone an opportunity to have a breadth versus depth right now so that you can learn and follow up. All of these people you can find online, and you can find certainly through the Lviv ICT Arena. But you both talked about or hit on new aspects of trade. Namir, you talked about it directly, and Wayne, you've talked, I mean, this Cloud First is even a really important aspect of trade. So if you could say, 30 to 40 seconds, what is the new aspect of trade that companies in Ukraine or Canada need to be thinking about to leverage, as both of you pointed out, this moment created by a global pandemic?
Katie, do you wish that I start first?
Namir, you want to go first?
Sure, happy to do that. Yeah, I think just building on what we sort of both highlighted, I think a lot of the capabilities in the digital space and the ICT digital space, it's about data, it's about cloud business, it's about digital banking, it's about e-commerce, all of that. And that creates a whole ecosystem of digital trade that we can look at how do we collaborate as both countries, because the digital trade is across boundaries, across geographies, and ultimately doesn't fall within the normal trade tariffs, trade mechanisms. It's much more unhindered, simplified, apart from the IP concepts and IP protection mechanisms that have to be looked into. But I think the software business, the cloud business, the commerce business, e-commerce business, all creates tremendous opportunities between the two countries. And I'll stop here.
Thank you. And Wayne, would you like to add something to that?
Sure. By the way, there are 225,000 outstanding job opportunities in cybersecurity in Canada. We can't fill them. And those are being created.
Wow.
Those are being created because of, just building on what Namir said, is that we're building these digital ecosystems and connectors out there, right? And we're exposing ourselves, right, to real threats. And to understand this, you're getting into the area of DevOps and API construction, and kind of stuff. And where we're really at risk is on the API side, because they're completely exposed externally. So what I'm saying is, we need to build these digital ecosystems, but we need to do it right. And we need to have apps going through a cybersecurity cleaner or meat grinder to make sure they're working. And it's creating other opportunities, specifically in cybersecurity and other areas, right? We have open banking coming in, presenting new cybersecurity challenges, right? So that is, in many respects in Canada, the number one threat to us, and we need more talent in cybersecurity.
Thank you. We actually have a cybersecurity sub-panel discussion, so it's great that you're both bringing this up. It's like we planned it, but we didn't, so that's fantastic. It's nice that we're already on point. You also both talked about ecosystems and sort of creating this space for the growth opportunities. So I will turn it over now to have a short conversation on tech hubs and innovation parks and sort of the business incubators, because when you certainly brought up the venture capital market, and all of this is related to that ecosystem. So I'm going to thank you very much for your insights. I'm sure especially the opportunities you talked about in terms of growth is of great interest to our audience. So I'm going to invite Ty Shattuck from McMaster Innovation Park, Sunil Sharma, Techstars Toronto, and Philippe Valentin, Montreal International to get ready to speak on exactly that thread of incubators and accelerators in this ecosystem. So Sunil, I'll ask you to talk first about the Toronto Regional Startup Ecosystem, Innovation Mentors, Capital and Talent. And also please feel free, you probably created opening remarks, but if you want to comment on or please feel free. And again, 4 to 5 minutes if you could keep those opening remarks. Thank you. Sunil? Do we have Sunil on the call? I'm just checking here. Okay, while we're waiting for Sunil, let's invite Ty Shattuck to come. He's with McMaster Innovation Park, which is a very strong innovation park in Ontario, and he's going to talk about sort of diversifying into Ukraine. Ty?
Hi, good morning, Katie, and good morning, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here today. Katie, it's a bit of a coincidence when you said Powassan. I spent a summer living in Powassan when I was posted to CFB North Bay many moons ago. So it kind of woke me up. So it's a remarkable little community. And I also want to say how thrilled I am to be here with friends from Ukraine and Your Excellency and the whole embassy. I was lucky enough to spend do a number of trips to Ukraine a few years ago with the Canadian Urban Institute, and so all the connections and all that vibe that you talk about Ukraine, I can remember it. And my goodness, I sure hope there's an opportunity for me and our team at MIP to collaborate and come visit Ukraine again, because it's such a remarkable place. So yes, let me speak a little bit about why it's so important that we have connections. So let me say, we at MIP and other innovation districts, we're all about bringing together the components necessary to go from a brilliant idea or technical innovation to an impactful business that's creating economic value. And let me also say, and the phrase that we all use in these environments is collisions. How do you have somebody from venture capitalist environment collide with somebody that's doing technical development or somebody in a regulatory environment? And so these collisions are necessary. Collisions unto themselves don't create value, but it's the collaborations that come out of that. And so what you learn over time as you're playing in these environments is the components, the Lego blocks of a successful venture. The odds that they all exist within one district, within one town, or even one country are extraordinarily small. The odds, if you have a technical innovation and then you want to connect it with the right commercial partner to bring it to the world, the odds that is just down the street is infinitesimally small. And so it's absolutely necessary, as you're building up an innovation ecosystem, that you have both a technical network that is diverse and has all those necessary components, and a business network. And so, yes, we have some of the Lego blocks here at McMaster Innovation Park and within Canada, but we don't have them all. And I would argue nobody has them. And if we want to increase the likelihood that we can take a technical innovation and bring it to commercial reality, it's absolutely necessary that you have partners throughout the region, throughout your country, and as we're talking about today, throughout the world. And so it's really exciting to be talking about that, because the net result is that increases the odds. As you're probably aware, that if you go from some nascent innovation to the odds that it's a successful venture, there's more than 90% chance chance that that won't happen on an individual idea. But as you start to increase access to those Lego blocks, and those Lego blocks are technology, and yes, it's technical talent, but it's also leadership talent, it's capital, and most importantly, it's customers and markets. And a common and shared and safe legal and regulatory environment. And so this collaboration across technical hubs increases the yield or the odds that a given venture will succeed. And then I'll wrap up saying that we at MIP have a focus on 3 areas. One is life sciences, the second is advanced manufacturing, and ICT is that third. And so I heard Namir speak about the industries that are gaining traction. The one industry that I would highlight that wasn't listed is life sciences. It's so prevalent today. And what we're really seeing within life sciences is how ICT is really intersecting with that to bring it to life. In this real world where we talk about COVID and what we're doing, what do we hear about every day? We talk about testing and where the hotspots are. That's not the biology of fighting COVID. That's the ICT piece of it. And it's this intersection of ICT with advanced manufacturing, within life sciences, with every other industry, empowering it, making a digital world not just for the ICT folks, but for every sector, which is real innovation is occurring. And that's really where we focus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ty, for sharing how, as an incubator associated with a research center university, you're really growing and facilitating this sector growth across, as you're saying, again, you know, I love this theme that's emerging, ICT across all sectors, so important. I'd like to invite
Katie, if I could just correct you, we have incubators, but it's more than startups. An ecosystem isn't comprised of just startups, it's all the way to full-size companies. Yeah.
Right. Thank you for clarifying. I'd like to invite Philippe Valentine from Montreal International to share a bit about what they're doing at this time to support the growth of the sector.
Well, good morning, fellow Canadians. Good afternoon, fellow Ukrainians. It's a real pleasure to see you today. First of all, I really want to thank IT Arena and all the companies that we've been talking to this week, my colleague Cedric, Gabriel, and I. It's been great, you know, a lot of great companies, and we really appreciated all the conversations we've had. Same thing for the Canadian Embassy. Thank you so much for organizing this panel. It's really interesting to hear all that's being done right now between Canada and Ukraine. And we really want to catalyze that over the next few years. So now, who am I? What's my role for Montreal International? So first, Montreal International, we're a nonprofit organization which is privately managed. So what that means, we basically offer the best of 2 worlds to the companies we work with. We offer free services, but we still act as a private sector consultant. So basically, we're very flexible. My role for the organization is to assist companies from southern and eastern regions in Europe, setting up and expanding operations in the greater Montreal region, which is the 2nd largest city in Canada. It's also the 2nd largest English-speaking city in Canada, which is very often mistaken for Vancouver. You know, Ukraine has been on my radar over the past few years because of the trade agreement that we've been negotiating, that has been signed between Canada and Ukraine. And over the past 12 months or so, I've started working with a lot of Ukrainian companies. And one of them is with us today, Sigma Software. By the way, Olesia, congratulations on your project in Montreal. We're really happy to have welcomed you this year in our beautiful city. But that being said, I've been in touch with many other Ukrainian companies, most of them active in artificial intelligence, video games, also life sciences, software development, obviously, and even aerospace. So, you know, it's been a very busy year for us on the Ukrainian territory. A very quick word on Montreal, 2nd largest city in Canada, 4.3 million people. What's really interesting, it's a truly international city in the sense that its inhabitants are mostly from abroad. About a quarter of the population in Montreal was actually born outside of the country. We're the most bilingual, trilingual city in North America. You know, it really shows when you're in the city, you really feel this international environment, this multicultural spirit. One very interesting fact is the fact that over the past few years, 2018, 2019, and even so far in 2020, although the COVID crisis hit us, we've had the best economic growth in Canada, and we've had as well the fastest recovery since the beginning of the COVID crisis. Montreal was also on top of the metropolitan areas for GDP growth over the past few years. This also reflects on the startup ecosystem. I wanted to tell you a bit more about the incubators and accelerators. I won't spend much time, discussing all of them because we have more than 30 incubators and accelerators in Montreal. But what I wanted to say, highlight two things. 6 of the 8 most active VC venture capital funds in Canada are actually Montreal based at the moment. So the startup scene is booming with investment as we speak. Since 2019, more than $1.7 billion has been spent in Montreal, which is a record number for us. So, a lot of money has been invested in startups, and, you think of Lightspeed, Element AI, and many other Hoopers. We have a lot of startups which have basically boomed on the global scene over the past few years. So Montreal has been really strong for the past 10, 15, 20 years in many different fields. I will highlight just a few of them. Obviously, the software development hub is not to be discussed anymore. Montreal is really strong in that field, especially in B2B software development, in cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence, deep learning. The business model that we see for most foreign companies interested in setting up an office in Montreal, they usually operate a cost center for their nearshoring facilities to serve the North American market. That is explained by a few factors: the overall operating costs in Montreal, the abundance of skilled labor, not only because we have 11 university institutions which basically add a lot of skilled workers every year, but also because of the immigration policies in Canada, which are really advantageous to foreign companies who want to have some staff transferred to Canada or to hire abroad and have those employees relocate to Canada. And also, last but not least, we have a very generous incentive in Canada which targets the IT field. B2B software development is basically subsidized at the rate of 24% on the payroll of all the software developers. So that's why you see a lot of companies, whether from Europe or the United States, from Asia, having their nearshoring office in Montreal to tap into the talent pool and the overall operating costs, which are really low. Other than that, Montreal is really strong in a few other fields. For example, all the digital creative industries. Our gaming reputation is not to be made anymore. We've been globally recognized as the place to develop the best games in the world. Think Assassin's Creed, Lara Croft, Jurassic Park, Deus Ex Machina. A lot of very good games have been developed in Montreal over the past 20 years. And that has also catalyzed another sector, which is the visual effects. Over the past 5 years alone, Montreal went from having a few VFX studios to being the tier 1 in Canada. We're basically the place in the world where you see the most VFX done as we speak now. So we're really proud of those achievements. We've been welcoming a lot of VFX studios over the past few years in the region. Worth mentioning a few other industries: the aerospace industry, electric vehicles, and batteries, agri-tech and life sciences have been booming as well over the past few years, especially in the electric vehicles. Some news to come on that front. To sum up, Montreal is basically the city in Canada which has the highest tech concentration. So you have a lot of tech companies active in the region, a lot of startups. We have more than 2,500 startups in Montreal alone. So a lot is happening in the region, a lot of software development, artificial intelligence, but also medical device and IoT is under development in the region. We have a lot of incentives, a lot of programs dedicated to specific industries. I'd be very happy to discuss with you, based on your specific industries, which incentives could be eligible to you. Just keep in mind that as an organization, Montreal International, as I said, provides free services to our clients. We can help you assess the business market in the region, the business opportunities, introduce you to all the local ecosystem. We have as well a department which focuses on international mobility. If you have any questions, how to get work permits to work in Canada, if you need to transfer key personnel, and so on. So I'd be very happy to discuss with you about all of those services. Feel free to reach out after the show on the platform. My name is Philippe Valentine. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, both Philip and Ty, for sharing insight on like companies, Ukrainian companies who are actually interested in expanding into Canada, maybe some soft landing places they can go, organizations like the Master Innovation Park or Montreal International, to make those connections, or at least start to create relationships that facilitate collisions, as Ty said, and the incentives that you're offering, Philip, that you shared. Thank you very much. I do encourage, we're moving quickly through our speakers because we have so many fantastic ones, but the audience, please Google the organizations, find them on the Lviv IT Forum website, and get to know them more. So we are going to switch to a sector-specific panel on cybersecurity, because that's actually come up in a few conversations already. So we're going to go that, and we predicted that, I think. So we're going to go deeper into that. Now, this panel, I'm going to warn you, we have 7 experts. So for the experts who are on this panel, I'm just going to ask you to please stick to 3 to 4 minutes max in opening remarks, so we can have some questions and facilitate some dialogue. So I'll just go through the speakers quickly, and then I'll invite them to come. So we have Deborah Clark-Foster and Philip Kordnicki, both from the Ontario Ministry of Economic Development, Jobs Creation and Trade. We have Yevgeny Karma from Herjavec Group. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. Please correct it when you're up. Oleg Daravenko from ISSP, Olesya Hankulia from Sigma Software, and Maria Mitsova from Techtelic. So we're going to dive into that. I'm going to ask our colleagues from the Ontario government to lead. So Deborah Clark-Foster, if you're on the call, please hop on and share some perspective from Ontario's cyber.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and a sincere thank you to our Madam Ambassador and our colleagues at the Canada Trade Commissioner Service. We're really happy to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation. And I love this format. This is fantastic. I had mentioned to Yuri, I think we're all experiencing a little bit of webinar fatigue. So it's really great to see a creative and innovative approach to helping us get the information across. But I have the absolute privilege of working for the Government of Ontario and focusing exclusively on cybersecurity. I work almost exclusively with private sector cybersecurity companies. I help Ontario-based cybersecurity companies to grow their business, both domestically and internationally. And I also have the privilege of helping international companies who want to expand offices into Ontario. And we're joined by one of those companies today, ISSP, one of Ukraine's leaders in cybersecurity. And I had the privilege over the last year and a half to work with Oli and his crew in order for them to set up an office in Toronto, which just happened in the last couple of months. And we're absolutely thrilled to have them here. In terms of Ontario's cybersecurity landscape, we have at least 270 cybersecurity companies that I am aware of, mostly SMBs. So we're really working with small to medium-sized cybersecurity companies. We do have a number of large foreign multinationals, the IBMs, the Nokias, the Checkpoints of the world, who all have R&D centers in Ontario. But we really have a robust and innovative cybersecurity small to medium-sized business market who are developing really creative solutions. In fact, about 50% of our cybersecurity companies are building technology. We're working with cloud, quantum, mobile, and the list goes on. But we also see a really strong services component to the market. So this whole area of monitoring and incident response, whether it be threat detection and analysis or the MSSPs and the SOCs of the world, that represents about 30% of our market. But over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of growth in the area of pen testing, as well as a focus on governance and education. It's been quite interesting to see the numbers go from 1 or 2 companies to now representing almost 13% of our market. Now, let me talk to you just a little bit about our sector. we have some really incredible world leaders. We have companies who are recognized globally in cybersecurity. Herjavec Group, and I know Evgeny is here this morning. Herjavec Group for 2 years in a row, 2017, 2018, was ranked #1 according to Cybersecurity Ventures, which is a really well-known, reputable resource in the cybersecurity sector. And recently, they've developed a list called the Hot 150. And on that list is 5 Canadian companies, of which 4 call Ontario home. And certainly Herjavec Group is one of those companies. A few other things I want to talk to you a little bit about is our investment in education, because I believe our friend Wayne talked about the shortage in talent. It's not just an Ontario thing. It's not just a Canadian thing. It's a global thing. The explosion in cybersecurity in terms of us trying to keep pace with cyber criminals. We're also trying to keep pace in building that workforce to support the work that needs to be done. About 5 years ago, Ontario had, maybe 20 programs in cybersecurity, less than a couple of hundred courses. Fast forward to today, we have more than 50 programs in cybersecurity and more than 700 courses at our 24 colleges and universities. So we're really pleased to see the emphasis. And it's these folks that are really going to help us build that workforce for tomorrow, because this workforce will be the #1 job in demand in North America by 2022. So it's really critical that we build that capacity in our talent. Just another couple of quick things I want to talk to you about, and then I'm going to ask you to have an opportunity to speak with my colleague, Philip. We do a lot of work in helping our Ontario-based cybersecurity companies do business around the world. And that's really Philip's strength. And Philip has been really dynamic in helping companies explore traditional and non-traditional markets and has a wealth of success in that regard. But I will also say the focus on Ontario-based companies to move beyond Canada and to focus around the world has been really impressive. And certainly Ukraine is an area of interest for so many of our Ontario-based companies. So on that note, I will close and I will thank you for your time.
Thank you, Deborah, for that very high-level overview of what Ontario is doing. I appreciate hearing the leadership role that our province is taking. And so, as you mentioned, Philip can give us a little bit more information. Philip, please hop on and share a little bit deeper insight on the focus on international markets and inward foreign direct investment.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Deb. Thank you very much. I think Deb already said quite a lot of course, what we're doing in the cybersecurity sector. I actually focus more on the broader ICT sector. So I work with AI companies, IoT companies. I also work in the advanced manufacturing space. So as Deb said, right, we are trying to really focus on key opportunities for our companies in international markets. And we're looking at different approaches. Of course, normally, we lead missions, in-person missions to large, trade shows. For example, MWC Barcelona is one of them that we always go to. That one was, of course, as many of you know, probably the first to be canceled because of the COVID crisis. So we're really looking at different ways and approaches. So Deb and I have been working on various initiatives for cybersecurity companies, kind of pitching sessions, trying to get companies together to really engage with different ecosystems and try to get our companies involved. As Deb was saying, SMEs are really the core of where the innovation lies in Ontario, and that's, we really have to support them in these days. It's not easy. There's a lot of companies that have done fundraising in the past. They're doing well, but of course, globally, right, the pandemic is really hitting companies hard. So there is more opportunity and actually more demand for our services, right, to help companies grow internationally. So Ukraine is definitely a market for us where we want to do more. And I mean, as Namir was saying, and there is a wealth of really, great companies in Ontario and I mean across Canada, of course. So we do our best to support them with programs.
Wonderful. What I appreciate hearing from both of you is the focus on service, because not all private sector around the world would associate government with service provider. But in terms of like business, sometimes it's more perceived as bureaucracy and red tape. But I think one thing that the Ontario government is doing very well right now is being that service provision point for businesses to come in, whether it's domestic or whether it's international coming in. So I would definitely encourage people on this call, if they're interested, to look at the province of Ontario's website. You can just Google Ontario Economic Development, and I'm sure you'd find it, and read more about the services offered. We're going to switch. Thank you very much for sharing that philosophy and the opportunities in Ontario. I want to invite Yevgeny Karam. Actually, he's already been mentioned. Deborah talked about him already, mentioned him. He's a cybersecurity architect and has developed a cybersecurity architecture podcast that is very unique in Ontario. So I'd like to invite him to speak just for a few minutes, Yevgeny, because people can find you and hear so much from you on this podcast. So maybe give us a short kind of commercial and pitch about the work you're doing.
Thank you, Katie. So first of all, it's a pleasure to be here because I spent my first 12 years of my life in Kyiv. And then I moved from Kyiv to Israel, and then I moved to Canada. So it's great to be in the Ukrainian conference and kind of remember my childhood and Kyiv and the trees and the forests and where I spent my childhood. So it's my very big pleasure. The last time I think I came around 25 years ago. Looking forward to maybe come the next 5 years again. As part of my full-time job, I work as a company called Horjovic Group. As Deborah mentioned, we are one of the biggest cybersecurity companies in Canada here, owned by a guy named Robert Horjovic. I lead architecture in the company. Beside Horjovic Group, I recognize a very big problem in the industry where people deploy and invest a lot of money in cybersecurity products, but not always integrate them correctly. So me and a guy named Dimitri decided to open a podcast that will focus on architecture. And we have a bit of a unique way to do it when we pick a topic and then we create questions architecture related about the topic, invite multiple vendors and industry leaders to answer such questions and help the industry in general to understand how can solve such problems. And we hope the podcast will help a lot of companies to have a better cybersecurity program and architecture in general. You can see the logo here and find the podcast on the internet, on LinkedIn, and email me to my emails that you can find in the brochure to engage more. Thank you very much.
Thank you for elevating the dialogue about cybersecurity. Obviously, you're in Canada now, but because it's a podcast, this can be a global discussion. So thank you for having something like this unique in Canada, but that also facilitates a global conversation, which we've heard from a number of speakers already. Cybersecurity is so important. So as Yevgeny said, there is the logo. You could, I'm sure, Google that name, security architecture, his name, and find the podcast in various places. So thank you for being a leader in Canada, bringing your talents to Canada, first of all, and for being a leader in sharing that. And also for your quick remarks. That's fantastic. But please, you can hear so much more from Yevgeny and the great work he's doing with Horjovic Group at the Security Architecture podcast. I'm going to invite Ole Derivienko to the podium if he's on the call, please. Ole, he's with ISSP to talk a little bit about actually his experience working with the province of Ontario and opening an office in Toronto. So Oleg, if you're on the call, please step up and share your experience.
Do you hear me? Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Hello, everybody. And
yes, hear you. Great.
Thanks for this opportunity to share this story a little bit. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone in Canada. And look, it's been a journey, but we also hope that it's going to be even more exciting journey. It was a journey to open the office, but now it's even more interesting journey ahead of us. I would say that when we joined, of course, our first thanks go to CUTIS and CUCC, who were actually helped us to get to Canada in the first place. And when we joined the CUTIS program, I didn't expect much, frankly. So I was thinking, okay, so it's a great opportunity to go and explore, have some B2B meetings. And but then when I arrived in Canada, and when those these B2B meetings were very good crafted, and we immediately made very interesting contacts, and it was really helpful. And it's I think it probably saved us not just time but a lot of money, to kind of understand what the Canadian market is about and how to explore, how to actually do a market entry. And then, after some time of being also already part of the CUTIS program and going back and forth to Canada, we met Deb, and I told Deb that in my 25 years in business, I never saw a better client service that was performed by Deb, and it was from somebody who was working from the government for Ukrainian, and something that almost incomprehensible. So how come somebody from working for the government could provide you a client service that is much better than folks from the best private client service in the private sector, So that was really fantastic, and that was we learned a lot. So it was so always whatever question we had, it was such a quick answer and quick solution that was proposed to us. From various perspectives, learning the ecosystem, making the right connections, opening an office, opening a bank account, get in touch with lawyers who would advise us to set up everything we need. So it was a really fantastic experience. But I would also agree with Wayne, who said that somebody who wants to kind of enter the Canadian market shouldn't expect like doing it overnight. So it takes time, but it's worth it. So we have, and again, so I also support all the notions that were said, and the ideas that for us, Canada is also, we perceive Canada not just as a market, but also as a location from which we're going to explore the North American and maybe even some of our global operations, because we are on a journey. We've been a leader in Ukraine and Eastern Europe for some time. We've been active in more than around 10 countries of Eastern Europe. And when we decided that it's time to go to North America and to see how we could explore business opportunities there, we were thinking not just about markets in North America, but also a location in North America where we would expand our operations. And I'm happy to say that we've chosen Canada and Ontario specifically as a destination and as a location for our further expansion. So that's basically in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer questions, and if there's any Ukrainian companies thinking about exploring Canada, please reach out. I'd be happy to share our experience in more detail, and I hope the travel restrictions will be waived very soon, and I'd be able to travel back again. And but we are now expanding the office, so we have our on the ground employees already, and that's also, so when we went there, so we think, okay, so what's the opportunities to export? But we quickly realized that Canada requires a lot of focus and attention, and if you want to be successful, you need to think strategically. And this strategy is not just about that there are some clients. Again, so we're not a typical, let's say, the usual suspect for export operations to Canada. We're not a software development company. We're a provider of cybersecurity services and solutions. And this highly competitive market, you need to see what is your differentiation really, and how you could be helpful to the clients who already have the companies that we just heard about and some others. And you need to kind of offer something different, right? So I would say that we're going also with support of CUTIS. We are planning a series of educational webinars later this autumn, like November and December. Anybody who's interested could go to webinars.issp.ca. So it would be about the lessons we will learn from acting as a first responder to some of the most devastating cyber attacks in history in Ukraine, and power grid attacks and others. It's going to be very interesting technical content. And some of this content were never published or actually presented before, only in the small workshops to very narrow audiences who could first understand, so it's highly technical content, and then also so that we control that who actually listens to this information, because that's quite sensitive as well. yeah, so we are excited to be part of this community, kind of Ukrainian Canadian business community, and supported by both Canadian government and Ukrainian government on the broader kind of political level. I think that there's a lot of opportunities ahead of us for our business and overall Ukrainian Canadian business relationships.
Well, Ole, we are also very happy that you chose Canada and Ontario, and thank you for reinforcing that message of the sort of service-based approach that you've experienced certainly in Ontario, and I think that we can say that across Canada. You've also heard from Montreal, in Quebec. This is our approach to business in Canada and trade. So thank you for being sort of a beautiful success story of how that can work, and that governments can be a partner in facilitating those relationships and growth. We have 2 speakers left on the cybersecurity panel, but I've just been informed that one of our speakers has a very hard stop at 9. Our panel should end at 9. We only have 4 speakers. Good for time, considering we've had 22 speakers to get through. So I would like to, we're going to bring Alexander Romanenko in, because I think the audience will want to hear from him. He's with IBM Canada and the University of Toronto. So we have 2 speakers left for cybersecurity, but we're going to invite Alexander Romanenko to talk about, he's under the subtitle of ICT sector and academia connection. So, and I think this is also relevant because there's such a huge part of research going into cybersecurity. But Alexander, please, before you have to go, please come and share with us the thoughts that you prepared, so we get your very important insights, because I think you represent a strong industry that folks want to hear from, strong company, as well as the academia. So please take the mic. Thank you.
Thank you, Caddy, and thank you to the embassy for inviting me. I'm really sorry I have teaching in 5 minutes at Ukrainian Catholic University, and I have to be here. It's difficult to make students to wait. So I would like to share a couple of remarks about my area of expertise. So I wear a couple of hats. I am now heading a research team at SSNC Canada, so working at the intersection of financial industry and artificial intelligence. And I'm also a adjunct professor at University of Toronto in Canada here, and at Ukrainian Catholic University and Kyiv School of Economics in Ukraine. So my remarks would be about the connections between industry and academia in Canada and Ukraine. So right now, we are very happy that 3 years ago, we opened the MITEX program. So this is a program for research internships, where Ukrainian students can come to Canada and do their research internships at Canadian universities, and I hope in the future at Canadian companies. So this program is really about venture investment from Canadian government and partner countries into commercializing research results, which is really, really important in nowadays, because as you may know, R&D, investment in R&D, and really commercializing those research results from university labs, from industrial labs, really brings a lot of advantage to both of our countries, to Canada and Ukraine. And we're happy to work on this program with MITEX, organization that is running the program, with Government of Canada, provincial governments, with Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, and with our donors, Western NS Enterprise Fund, Michal Family Foundation. And we hope to see more and more students, both sides, coming from Canada to Ukraine and from Ukraine to Canada to do those research internships and bring those research results to life. Second, what we are trying to do, we are trying to build the ecosystem, both in Canada and Ukraine, around artificial intelligence. Right now, as you all know, and it was mentioned a number of times on this panel, artificial intelligence is really one of the key areas in the ICT sector. So what we were doing for the last 5 years, so we were running a number of events, courses, meetups in Ukraine. So we had more than 5,000 attendees over these 5 years. And we are happy that many of Ukrainian students and young professionals switched to this area, to the artificial intelligence, found jobs, found internships, and really continue contributing to this very important area. So as a result of that, actually, Ukrainian company, Data Science UA, is now working with a number of countries to open R&D offices in Ukraine related to artificial intelligence. So recently we opened an R&D office for US company, and they're basically offering this this service to establish an R&D AI office in Ukraine to anybody who is interested. So we're inviting all Canadian companies to consider Ukraine as your hub for artificial intelligence work, and to consider basically investing in this area, consider coming to Ukraine, consider establishing an R&D team in Ukraine related to artificial intelligence. And a couple of recent developments that you may probably know between our countries is, I am sure that everybody at Lviv knows about the Lviv IT Park, which is now being built, and that's a large investment from Canadian side, from Brookfield Asset Management and from George Michal. So that's going to be a great hub, I am sure, to really keep these collaborations going between both industry and academia, have the industrial research labs over there related to ICT, related to artificial intelligence, data science, analytics, and so on. And the recent donation from James and Louise Temertay to the medical faculty at the University of Toronto, which is also at the intersection of artificial intelligence and medicine. And we hope that these collaborations will help both our countries to continue to be established as leaders in artificial intelligence, continue to grow, and to continue to collaborate. So that's all from me, and I'm really grateful for the organizers for inviting me. And let's continue to share this knowledge, this information, and let's continue to work on making both of our countries, Ukraine and Canada, leaders in this global work. Thank you.
Alexander, it's so great that you mentioned MyTax and this research internship and relationship. We've heard from several speakers that talent is a huge challenge, that there's a gap in the talent market. And it's so great to hear and be reminded of these programs like MyTax, like other kinds of scholarships through other donor organizations or through universities that enable talent from Ukraine to move into Canada, and vice versa. So thank you very much for that reminder, and for doing the vital work of teaching students about these important emerging economies. So thank you very much. Good luck with your teaching this morning, and we will talk to you again soon, I hope. So we'll jump back now to the cybersecurity experts. Thank you. We have Olesya Kohuglia, and I apologize if I pronounce that incorrectly, from Sigma Software. Alessa, if you're on the call, please hop on and share a bit about the work that you're doing in terms of, you've also recently opened an office in Montreal, working with Montreal International, and we've already heard from Philip. So talk a bit about that success story and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Katie, and thank you for inviting me. Very interesting discussion. I just realized that it was 2 hours, but it was so interesting that I didn't realize that it was so long time already. But speaking about our journey, we are a software development company, and we are working in all trendy areas like AI, gaming, augmented reality, and also cybersecurity. Cybersecurity was one of our, I would say, primary segments for the last 2 years, because we see the problematic coming from our customers. Right now, we have more than 100 customers, and 47% of them are from enterprise world. And we see the problematic, and we see how seriously they started to, take all the issues which connect to security. And our strategy was not just to provide like regular penetration test or audits or something like that, but to become an ecosystem itself. So we basically started to develop cybersecurity product together with our customers. And right now we are working on 2 products. First of them, it's in ad tech area, it's fighting malicious ads, which is a very big issue at the moment, at least in America, as far as I know. Another one is finding vulnerabilities in the code, and it's a very well-known company, Checkmarks, which is working on 23 countries. So we are developing products for them, but also we have a privilege to use this product and to offer them to our customers. And I would say that opening office in Canada was just, a very logical step, because we understand that it's a market with a huge potential. The only challenge we had, it was done through pandemic time, and it's very, very difficult to do something when you can't even visit the country, can't talk to people, can't establish connections, basically you can't do anything. And there is no transparency of the future, but you have to have some, some good forecast in your numbers of revenue when you start new segment. So it was a huge challenge, and I'm very, very grateful, guys from Montreal International, because they were supporting us during all this journey. And right now we are offering our ecosystem to Canadian market. And we feel that there is very, very big synergies between Canadian companies and Canadian demands, I would say, because we have engineers, we have very good engineering force, more than 1,000 engineers who work in different areas, but we also have products, and we also have very, very deep knowledge of the trends and problematic of this market. So speaking about ingredients, to sum up, I think that support from all the Canadian IT ecosystem, but also our very good engineering force bring us perfect ingredients to cook, the right dish of this international cuisine. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for picking up that theme in your summary, Mark, on the right ingredients and sharing with us your experience in that, and your sort of the way that these ingredients have come together for your expansion into the Canadian market and growth. I want to invite Roger Sells from BlackBerry to speak as well. I think that's a company with a remarkable history and reputation for innovation. So Roger, if you're on the call, pop in and tell us a little bit about your perspective on why cybersecurity is no longer a human scale problem and the type of work that BlackBerry is doing on it.
Thank you, Katie. Hi, good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. So far, really been enjoying this riveting discussion. So maybe first I'll clarify what BlackBerry is doing in the cyberspace, because many people still see us as a mobile company, and we stopped that activity a number of years ago. We have 35 years of experience in securing and connecting devices and securing the data that flows between these devices. And yes, in the past it used to be our devices. Now today that just is no longer the case. But that focus on innovation in this field has remained. In 2019, we invested $1.5 billion to acquire Silence, which was the leader in artificial intelligence. Actually, Silence was the first company to use artificial intelligence for cybersecurity problems. Now, with that out of the way, the importance of cybersecurity is emphasized with this pandemic as organizations are moving to adopt digital ways of working. So either to enable top-line growth or to really protect the bottom line is where we come in. And we have a program that's focused on prevention of breaches, detecting and remediating breaches. So that's where we mainly come in. Now, as a number of people have highlighted, there's a skills shortage. There are integration pains from a technology point of view. So with our platforms, we allow algorithmic decision making so that ultimately the disparate data that is being generated by all of these point-to-point solutions that are deployed to mitigate risk within organizations, that no longer has to rely on humans. So we no longer have, let's say, defenses moving at human speed, but we get defenses moving at machine speed. The second element there is that we can then create jobs. Sorry, yes. We can create jobs that are more appealing to the workforce by reducing manual, tedious work. and leaving that to, let's say, the machines. So that's one of the areas that we've been really focused on. And I'm very excited to see the innovation that's coming along with that and the new capabilities that artificial intelligence will bring to countries. But I believe we have other speakers, so I'll give the floor to them.
Thank you, Roger. And of course, people are welcome to Google and find you later. As the conference organizers mentioned, we are running out of time, but we have 2 speakers left. And so bear with us because everyone has really remarkable, valuable things to say. So the last on the cybersecurity side, I'd like to invite Maria Midasova from Teletech to share a bit about her perspective and her work in this sector. Maria, if you're on the call, please talk about the smart cities, gateway business in Kyiv and other aspects that you're engaged in.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Katie, for the preliminary introduction. It's an honor to be a part of the Canadian panel meetup again this year and to contribute to Canada-Ukraine relations and Lviv Arena as the community in general. So with your permission, I will start with a very short introduction of Tiktaalik as a company. So Tiktaalik is a Canadian company that is
Hey guys, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We're running out of time, so we have like 5 minutes left. So just want to make sure that you have enough time to deliver the main idea. Thank you.
Thank you. So Tiktaalik is a Canadian company that is known for providing carrier-grade solutions in the area of 3G, 4G, custom wireless solutions. And now we develop a lot of IoT, which Katie, you was referring to while talking about smart cities and smart countries in general. We focus on LoRa technology, and Tiktaalik develops complete end-to-end solutions starting from gateways. And we have not a single unit, but a portfolio of gateways to deliver multiple customer needs. We have sensors, our own network server, and applications. And this last element, and I would like to stress on it, the applications, they are all developed in Ukraine, in Kyiv, because we have our software development excellence office right in the heart of Kyiv, which counts nowadays 30 people, and we plan to onboard 20 people as a minimum more in order to do nothing but to develop custom applications to satisfy multiple use cases in Canada, in Ukraine, and around the world where we have our presence. And today I would like to focus your attention on a couple of projects that we are proud of in particular, because we believe that it brings a lot of value to Ukraine as a country and to the Canadian-Ukrainian relations in general. So last year and this year, we have been assigned and we won an opportunity to supply 200 gateways and hundreds of devices for the city of Kyiv and for the city of Kharkiv in order to make those cities more smart and more actually digitalized. And among the core applications that the cities are striving and aiming to deploy are the modernization and automation of the water and gas metering fraction. It's security assurance in schools, kindergartens, and hospitals. It's a CO2 monitoring and COVID-19 prevention monitoring, which is quite crucial nowadays due to fast spread of COVID-19 all over the globe. And it's actually also monitoring of and making it more efficient when it comes to parking in the most critical and busy areas of the city. So Tiktaalik won the gateway business and the Cisco won the network server business. And besides, we are working on other smart cities like Lviv in particular. We want Lviv to be smart based on LoRaWAN technology. We work with the city of Uzhhorod, Kharkiv, and many others. And also recently, one of the most important facts about Tiktaalik and our cooperation between Canada and Ukraine is that Tiktaalik managed to move our manufacturing from China to Uzhhorod in Ukraine. It's actually on the border between Ukraine and Hungary. And it's working exceptionally well for us and for our customers due to the excellent, great collaboration between Canada and Ukraine, and due to the mutual effort of both countries. So I would like to make a special thank you for inviting us for these type of events, because it helps establishing the right connections and tighten cooperation between countries for experience exchange. So thanks for attention, and thank you for having us here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm getting, I didn't realize it was such a hard stop. So I'm getting the sort of countdown from the organizers. So Bogdan Kubic, you're our final speaker, and we saved the best for last, but you get the sort of 60-second pitch on the great work that KM Core has been doing, and maybe use the opportunity to also direct people to where they can connect with you and find out more about your organization. Bogdan, I call. I'm scrolling here. Okay, I do not actually see Bogdan on the call, so I guess that means that gives us a few minutes to wrap up. I want to thank all of the speakers. You know, I was writing down keywords as we spoke, and these are the list of keywords I wrote down as summary. We're just closing up with keywords: resilience, cloud first, collisions, incentives, education, innovation, security architecture, journey, connections, and human versus machine. So thank you very much, everyone, for your insights. Sorry for going over, but I think we did a pretty good job with 22 speakers. So thank you, Lviv Forum, for hosting and for your graciousness. And please, audience, follow up with speakers. You can find them on the agenda, you can find them in the program, and you can find them online.
Thank you so much, Katie, and we really appreciate the speakers, and the speeches were just brilliant. We're going to watch a brief video now, and guys, get ready for the next meetup. Thanks, guys, and see you later.
Greetings to the participants of this year's Lviv IT Arena, and a particularly warm welcome to our Canadian guests. Welcome to Ukraine. I trust that this conference will generate ideas, collaboration to the benefit of both countries.
Canada, we didn't build the Berlin Wall, but we know how to build firewalls. Not only in Silicon Valley of the North, but from coast to coast, you will find global leaders in innovative startups in AI, VFX, quantum computing, gaming, virtual reality, and cybersecurity. We want to be home to you as well.
Over 25 years, Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce is the key Canadian non-governmental organization facilitating trade and investments between our countries. Join us and become part of the success story.
Over the last 5 years, Canada has been supporting Ukrainian IT companies to do business in Canada through the CUTIS project. These linkages had already had a positive effect, and we're looking forward to the further development in the future.
Lviv IT Arena is where businesses, academia and state talk collaboration. Canadian Trade Commissioner Service is here to help. Type Ukraine, fix a meeting, go international.
Merci d'avoir nous rejoindre pour le Lviv IT Arena 2020. This is an exceptional event, and it's an exceptional event because you're here. Let us know how we can help you strengthen your Canada-Ukraine partnership.